Fuzzy Belvedere. We got almost 600 people here. We got to get into South of Midnight. This one excites me. Now you got to go all the way back to that interview with Phil Spencer when he was asked, are there any particular games that have not been shown that you're most excited about? And during this interview, and I believe that interview was 2019, it's a couple of years ago, he specifically said, I'll give you two. But he says, the first one was Compulsion Games' unannounced title. Now, you got to remember Compulsion Games was purchased, was announced that they were purchased in 2018 during that E3. They were coming off We Happy Few, which some people enjoyed it, some people didn't. I was one of the people that was hoping for a more BioShock level experience, and it wasn't that. It looked like that, but it just wasn't that. And I didn't beat the game. I put about maybe 6-7 hours into it and realized that the game wasn't for me. I got to tell you, folks, We Happy Few is, and for a lot of people, a really good game. A lot of people really enjoyed it. But if you look at how that studio has grown to now South of Midnight, we're talking leaps and bounds. And I know that there are, again, we don't do the names thing here, not because I'm afraid of anybody. I don't fear anyone. I don't like to swim in those waters. And if that's how you do your content, good for you. But there are some real pieces of shit out there, pardon the French, folks, that have taken this particular game and are trying to run it through the mud with the DEI stuff. And look, I'm sorry to tell you, folks, none of that exists. It's a female protagonist. Yes. She's African American. Yes. She's from the Deep South. Okay. Nothing wrong here, folks. I don't understand how people have tried to demonize Compulsion Games and the story that they're trying to tell. It blows my mind. And shout out to the Black Viking, who consistently not only points out these terrible humans by quoting their stuff and putting it out for everyone to see how stupid some of these people actually are, but some of them are actual journalists, and I'm like, my God, what a small-minded POS. But I'll say this: Compulsion Games has consistently, in the last couple of weeks leading up to 2025, been putting out one clip after another. They put out the documentary that you can check out about where they decided and why they decided to pick this particular lore. Look, I could tell you this right now. I really think, just based on what we've seen, that this is going to be a game that not only is going to surprise a lot of people, Fuzzy Belvedere, I think it has the potential, because of everything that we've seen, the motion caption, the art style, the voice, the music, how authentic the music is for that region of the world, how they're taking actual lore, like real life storybook lore, and bringing it to life. I think this has a chance to be one of those games that shows up in the end of the year when you start talking Game of the Year. Now, granted, I haven't played it. I'm going to be playing it like everyone else whenever it is, but I'll say this, and this is the caveat I have for it. I think that we are getting this game way sooner than we could have thought, because they are putting out, this is consistently every day on the socials, they're showing something new. That tells me this game is ready to go. Let's get your thoughts on some of the stuff that's going on with this.
All right, I'm going to start off with that stuff I'm happy about, like the fact that they're showing clips. They're comfortable. They're confident in their game. That's why they're showing the clips. And I happen to agree with you. I think it is right around the corner. I know when Game Pass made that, waiting for like a midnight, drop type of thing. I was hoping they were referring to a game and not just 2025 being the midnight drop.
I was fingers crossed.
And I was like, oh, maybe South of Midnight is that game, but we got Carry On. I think that's how you say it in Game Pass instead. But yeah, I love how this game looks, and I just have to say something real quick about all of those that are complaining about woke stuff and DEI stuff and all that. It's like I I get it. If it's a game that's not for you, that's fine. There are games out there that are not for me, and I'm not going to. Even though yes, I know I brought up Concord, but it's like I'm talking about its livelihood as opposed to, oh, I hate that game. I'm glad it's no. I'm sad that it didn't last, long enough for it to, get that audience and stuff like that. But I'm not the type that's going to sit up there and constantly hate on a game. If a game is not for me, I'm not going to buy it.
You just move
I'm
on.
not going to talk about it. I'm going to move on to something that is for me and then enjoy those other games. So for those out there that are complaining about, this type of game or that type of game, there are thousands of games that come out every year. Like I think the Knoebel posted on social media that, Steam released 18,000 titles.
Yes, I saw that post. Ridiculous.
Pick one of the other 18,000 titles out there to enjoy as opposed to hyper focusing on one. Like I never understand why there's so much of this focus. Like you spend more time and energy on that focus as opposed to focusing on your enjoyment of gaming. It's like, I don't know. It just comes across weird to me in that regard, but I get it. Not everything is for everyone. Like I said, there are games that are not for me, but I do my best to just move on and go to the next game that is for me and then spend my time with that. But in general, this game looks awesome as far as the traversal, the like the floating, the kind of like the flying and following like the trail or the like the tethers and things like that you have as far as, moving from place to place. In a weird way, this has like similar energy without the cuddly cuteness of like Kena, the Bridge of Spirits type of game. Like it has a similar atmosphere, but it's a different like biome kind of thing. And I like the fact that they've mixed in the music with the lore of that region to give it more of like a grounded in that area type of feel. And the haints and things like that you wind up fighting. I think this is going to be like that little gem. Maybe it doesn't get quite the fanfare of, a AAA game, but I think it will find its audience and be a pleasantly surprising new IP. Like I think the key thing is we don't talk enough about new IPs. Like it's great that we get series of games. Like I'm all for Forza Horizon 6 and things like that, but it's always awesome seeing what the devs can do with a new IP. It's a new experience, a new world that you get to explore and enjoy. And I think that's some of the highlighted stuff that people should take a look at. I mean, it's coming to Game Pass day and date as far as for Game Pass Ultimate subscribers. So it doesn't hurt to try it. Like you don't even have to download it. You could cloud stream it. And if you enjoy enough of it in the first half hour, 20 minutes or whatever, download it to the hard drive or to the SSD and go from there. But I think this is going to be a pleasant surprise for a lot of people. I just like the look of it. The stop motion type of look. I know some people were saying, oh, it gets juddery or looks juddery and can, possibly cause them a headache or something like that. But I think this type of animation for the style of the world that we're going to be, playing through, I think it just fits that look. Like it almost feels, I wouldn't say a Tim Burton movie because it's not quite that aesthetic, but right. I just love how the atmosphere looks in this game. That's the key thing I'm looking forward to. I'm hoping this is sometime between, whenever the Dev Direct is, like maybe this gets released before the Dev Direct. I doubt it, but I think we get a date at the Dev Direct. Who knows if it gets shadow drop or stealth dropped at that point. That would be awesome. But I think we get this game before the June showcase. Like it just has that feeling like it's sooner rather than later, either shortly before Avowed or shortly after Avowed. And I don't want to rush through Avowed if that's the case, but I'm definitely going to be playing at a little bit more of a spirited playthrough on Avowed if it is to get to South of Midnight shortly after. But I love what I see of the game so far. I could care less playing as a female character. Like I'm one of those guys that grew up playing as Lara Croft in Tomb Raider. I didn't have any complaints there. And Sure,
There you
I know
go.
they don't have the triangle boobs or pyramid boobs anymore, but it was still fun. It was a fun game, and I I think that's the key thing people forget about with games. They're meant to be fun, and if you don't see the fun in it, move on. But yeah, I think this is going to be something special. This is going to be like a hidden gem and a great new IP for an Xbox studio. I can't wait to play this game.
Fuzzy Belvedere. Why I personally think that South of Midnight is going to succeed in ways that a lot of people aren't going to give it credit. And I just want you to take your focus, walk with me on this. Look at some of the games, whether they were first party or console exclusives for Sony PlayStation during the 2018, 2019, and 2020 years, right? Those are back to back to back years that Sony dominated with their games. And some of the smaller games that may not have gotten a lot of buzz were surrounded by other bigger games. Their first party quote unquote bangers. And I think that, yes, Compulsion is first party. Yes, they are a smaller team. This game looks freaking phenomenal. I don't care how you try to cut it down. This game looks outstanding. But when you surround a game like South of Midnight, which of course is a new IP, and you surround it with a Fable, you surround it with a Doom, you surround it with like something like, even though it's a new IP, it's still a big one, Avowed or the Outer Worlds. It raises everything. Like again, it's just the ideology that it takes just one big game to raise some of the smaller ones. And even though this may not be, maybe action platformers aren't your thing, this one actually might be. And I think people are going to find it be more interested in this game because you're going to have games surrounding it like Doom, like Avowed. Other buzzworthy games are going to raise up the smaller ones. Any thoughts to that?
Yeah, I think the key thing is when it comes to Game Pass in general, there's something for everyone, and having a lineup where now we're seeing. I have always thought that Xbox games were of quality, but now the gaming media is starting to recognize that and seeing that these games have some substance to them that is worthwhile playing through. That is something unique as far as the experience, like your Indiana Jones and more than likely what Avowed will be and stuff like that. So it just comes down to, having these variety of games. If let's say the smaller title isn't your bag, but you join Game Pass for Avowed, you're more than welcome to try, South of Midnight when it comes into the service. And it's that type of thing where it doesn't hurt to try a game. Like it's almost like being at a free sample buffet or something like that. It's like, hey, do you want to try these wings? Or hey, do you want to try the shrimp? Or hey, do you want to try that? I mean, yeah, you might want to mix everything together. You might wind up with a bellyache or something. But I think it comes down to all of those games in a service that you're paying pennies on the dollar in comparison to buying those games outright. And then having to deal with, oh, I didn't like this game. Can I return it? Or dealing with, I bought all these games and I spent all this money on something that I didn't like. Having the service and having that variety, I think is the key thing that is the draw to Game Pass and the draw to Xbox Studios and their subsidiaries, which I still, even though they're not under Xbox Studios, but I still consider Bethesda in that family and Activision in that family because they are. I think that's the thing. Having that type of lineup where you can look at any game and be like, I want to play that, or I want to give that a try. That's going to be the big thing. And maybe I know Sega did a bang up job this year. I still think, Microsoft as a whole or Xbox as a whole should get Publisher of the Year. But if it's on Metacritic, Sega might edge them out a bit because they had some better critical claims on some of their games. But I think as far as overall looking at what Xbox has for 2025, I think they're well onto their way in trying to go for that Publisher of the Year title. So, yeah, those smaller titles will mix in nicely with the bigger titles and hopefully get more eyes on the whole lineup in general.